Hey dude, what's Uno Flip? It's like regular Uno, but heaps more fun. Sure, I'll give it a go.
Flip. Skip everybody. Reverse, reverse, reverse. Draw 5.
Draw 5, draw 5, draw 5, Uno! Uno Flip is a re-implemented version of the very popular family card game Uno, where players try to match numbers and colours and use wild cards to change colours and inflict draw 2 and draw 4 cards on other players, with the ultimate aim of being the first player to empty their hand of cards first. Uno Flip takes the original core idea from the original game and, you guessed it, flips it! In Uno Flip, players shuffle the deck and begin the game with the light side facing down and the light side of the cards facing the other players. Each player draws 7 cards and the top of the deck is flipped so that the dark side is faced up, forming the discard pile. It is important to note that all of the cards in this game are double-sided. Players play Uno as normal, i.e. they try to get rid of the cards from their hand before the other players. Then at the end of the round, the player who empties their hand first scores points equal to the composition of cards in the other player's hands. The first player to reach 500 points wins the game. The twist in Uno Flip is that the actions on the light side are pretty tame. However, in contrast, the actions on the dark side are absolutely insane. Think of the dark side as Uno on turbo mode. Players will flip between the dark side and light sides by playing a flip action card into the discard pile. When a flip card is played, the entire discard, draw deck, and cards in all players' hand flip to the other side. This side now becomes the active side of the game. Players continue to match colours and or numbers till one player empties their hand completely and is declared the winner of the round and gains points as a result. Aspect number 1. Uno Flip takes the original actions from the original Uno game and amps them up to level 10. In particular, the actions on the dark side of the Uno cards are super mean and super cutthroat, so be prepared. Playing a draw 5 card forces the next player in turn order to draw 5 cards and ultimately miss their turn. The skip everyone card forces all players to skip their turn, and the active turn comes back to the person who played the card. The wild card allows a player to choose a colour that dictates the next turn and play. A wild draw colour card forces the next player to draw from the top of the deck until they reach a colour of your choosing, no matter how many cards they have to draw to do so. They also then lose their turn. To the original wild draw 4 card rule in the original game, a player can only play a wild draw color card on the dark side only if they do not have a matching colored card in their hand that matches the color of the face-up one in the discard pile. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that players might not accidentally sneak one in and try and gain an advantage, so it's up to the remaining players to try and challenge the active player and question them and get them to kind of buckle in and try and see whether they're actually bluffing or not. So if players are pretty sure that the active player still has active cards that they can play from their hand, then players can challenge them. And if a player challenges them and the active player is found to be lying, then the active player has to suffer the action that they just played on this card. Now, if the active player happens to be innocent, then the accusing player will need to draw 2 cards. The potential impact of the actions on the dark side of the cards means that players are going to be more frequently drawing extra cards into their hand, which is going to make it a whole lot harder to try and get them out of your hands. The game can feel incredibly punishing, and the amount of take that moments will increase exponentially. The second aspect refers to the actions that feature on the light side of the card, which have been decisively modified for this version of the game. A draw 1 card forces the next player to draw 1 card and miss their turn. These effects do not stack. Playing a wild draw 2 card forces the next player in turn order to draw 2 cards from the top of the draw pile and also allows you to choose the colour that dictates the next turn. Just like in the original game with the wild draw 4 card rule, players cannot play a wild draw 2 card if they have another valid playable card in their hand that matches a colour in the top of the discard pile. The impact of the modification of the light side cards means that players are still going to have a really big handful of cards, and the game is going to feel a lot more slower paced because the actions are relatively basic, but it does give you a grounded feel to the original version of the game. And the third aspect that you should know is in regards to the wildcards that are featured in this game. There are now 4 different types of wildcards, which means that the chances that the color will change across a particular round is going to be so frequent. There are now also 8 colors altogether that are featured in the game, with only 4 colors being active at one time. And if someone plays a flip card on the next turn, then your whole game is going to change yet again. So players are constantly going to have to try and adapt to the changing colors, the changing actions, and the changing state of the gameplay. The impact of introducing these 4 types of wildcards means that the speed at which certain colors are going to change is going to be so incredibly fast. You know, players will have control over the particular colors they want if they have a wild card in their hand, but they'll also feel the sense of lack of control as the other players constantly change the color, and trying to empty those cards that you really want is going to be incredibly difficult. I play a flip card and flip the game. Alright, who was the one that flipped the game? How are we supposed to see each other now? The fourth aspect about Uno Flip that you should know is that because in this version the cards are double-sided, you can actually see the composition of the cards that each of your opponents is holding. So if you're playing on the light side, you can actually see the composition of all the dark cards that your opponents are holding in their hand, and vice versa when you flip over to the dark side. Now this open information really helps you to plan your course of action strategically before forcing a flip. So if you can see a player with a draw 5 card on the back of their card and you're about to force a flip, you might want to hold off a little bit and wait for that player to discard that card and then flip the game over so that you can then play the cards from your hand and gain an advantage. So the impact of this dual-sided card design element means that any open information that appears in any game is incredibly powerful, and players should use that open information to help them win their game. The flipping mechanic is such an interesting way of allowing the players to help them gather information. Sometimes players will use a flip card just to see what's in other players' hands so that they can plan their next move. It is such an interesting, cool design element that does make this game quite interesting. He's got a wild draw 2 card in his hand. Do you copy? Alright sir, I'll be on the lookout for more cards. The fifth aspect of Uno Flip that you need to know is make sure you are fully aware of the deck composition. Because the deck flips so frequently and you can see the back of your opponent's cards, you can almost predict what sort of cards your opponents and the other players might be holding their hands or about to play, especially when the draw deck has thinned down. There are also 2 copies of each action card and 8 wild cards altogether, 4 of each type, and that's only on one side of the cards. So if you double that, you get the other side as well. Now, although the card backs are actually randomized, the flipping nature of the game as well as the double-sided nature of the cards means that you can almost pretty much narrow down what's left, and the impact of this is it really opens the gates for forward game planning and tactical card play. You know, playing that very important crucial card at the right time can be that moment where you actually, gain a victory. So in considering my final conclusion about Uno Flip, I actually don't think it's actually better than the original. It's like trying to cram 2 different games into the one game. It is a very different way to play. It is enjoyable if you really like playing those sorts of take that style of games, and there is a really cool openness in the mechanism when it comes to the flipping, and there is a variety of different actions that players can explore and different tactical choices that players can make. It does have a very elevated level of meanness, so that's something you should be aware before you buy this game. Thank you once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really like this video, please remember to smash the like, subscribe, and share button. I want to say a huge shout out and thank you to all the people who currently subscribe to this channel and who continually support me and my endeavors. It truly means a lot. Thank you once again. I'll see you guys again soon for another video in the near future. This is Danny signing out. Bye. Now what happens if I flip the title of the game Uno? Onu? Onu? On you!